Hello guys, welcome back to the Eat Like Ruby podcast. I am back today doing another solo ep. I did a solo episode last week and I feel like I'm just kind of in this solo episode energy right now. I feel like we did so many episodes with Shaq throughout the last few weeks and months and like he's great, that's awesome. But I just feel like I said on last week's episode that I'm spending a lot of time at the moment just working behind the scenes, kind of chipping away, running my own race. And I just kind of feel the same when it comes to podcasting. I feel like I'm almost in this like loner era, for lack of a better word, but it's like an awesome, just kind of doing my own thing era. And I'm just chipping away most of the week and just going to think of little things and think, oh, that'd be so cool to just kind of bring to the podcast, whether it's about nutrition, training, mindset, all of the above. I just feel like I don't have a lot to chat to other people about. I've just got a lot kind of brewing in my mind and then I'm just kind of brain dumping it and then bringing it to episodes every week by myself. I feel like last year as well, we did a lot of guests who kind of had a specialty or something in particular that they could talk about. And I'm quite keen to get some more of them happening towards the back half of this year. So I've just been low-key kind of thinking of specific topics or things where I'm like, oh, if we could find an expert in that, or even just looking at all of the people that I follow and I interact with and think like, oh, do you have a specialty or a niche that we could tap into? So I definitely do want to do some more guest episodes in the coming months. But right now I'm just feeling like, I think I said last week, I don't give a fuck what anyone else is doing. And it's still kind of that vibe with the podcast where I just think like, no, I don't want to do interviews and that sort of thing. I just kind of want to come and bring whatever chat is sort of happening at the time to the mic. So today is going to be a lot of mindset chat, which I think is cool. I like to do these episodes every now and then, and I like to kind of relate them to nutrition and training as much as I can. And I think, you know, it's almost like that saying, how we do anything is how we do everything. And I think when you do mindset work or personal development work, and then you also run a business, and then you also look after your health, and you also look after your relationships, and you do all these things, it really is how you do anything is how you do everything. So even though the sort of topic and the focus is mindset today, I think there's so many things that I'm going to say that can be applied to all areas of your life, and especially nutrition and training. So it's always cool. I like to just see where these episodes go. And I've actually got a few quotes to talk through today. And it's so funny because I feel like I've been known on the podcast to say I fucking hate quotes. But I feel like the more I tapped into that, I was like, no, I just hate like shitty, lame, soppy quotes. When you think about quotes, I feel like you think, you know, live for the moment or live, laugh, love and things like that. That's the kind of shit that I hate. But when you read like a real banger quote and you just think, oh my God, that's so spot on, I actually love quotes in that sense. So I've got a few. I personally like to do a lot of reading of sort of personal development or mindset books. Obviously, I kind of listen to podcasts and follow a few things like that as well. And I think when you just kind of stumble across a quote or a saying or a paragraph or something that just hits you, you're like, oh, that is so juicy. And I always kind of pull those and then I'll just save them in my notes, or I do a lot of like, what's the word I'm looking for? Not vision boarding, but if anyone uses Notion, I'm a huge Notion fan. If you don't know what Notion is, it's like an online program and you can kind of just, you can literally use it for anything. We use it in Eat Like Ruby for all of our business, admin, that sort of stuff. But then you can also use it for more like personal vision boarding, goal setting, that sort of thing. It's awesome. If you don't know what it is, you're going to look it up now and then you're going to get stuck in a Notion hole for like 3 days and you'll be like, oh my God, Ruby, what have you got me onto? But it's awesome. Anyway, what I'm getting at there is I like to kind of put all my quotes in there and just kind of have the things that I like to read back on and refer back to often. And I thought it'd be cool to bring some of them forward today and kind of just talk through them, like why I've got those particular ones there, what they mean to me, how I've integrated them in my life, the role that they play, etc. And like I said, kind of relate it to nutrition and training. So let's see where it goes. And I actually, full disclosure, I actually had such a shitty sleep last night, which is so unlike me. Normally I sleep really well. And I'm recording a double episode right now, and I'm just going to see how I go with one, and then if I'm feeling good, I'll go into the second one. So we'll see. But that's the energy I'm in right now. But I'm still vibing. I'm still loving life. And that's almost what one of these quotes is actually about. So this is a perfect example. But the first quote, and this is an absolute banger. Like, this is something that, in all honesty, I can't even remember where I got it or who originally said it. So unfortunately, I cannot credit the source on this one, but I've had this just floating around my vision boards, my notes, everything for a long time. And these are like a little bit, not complex quotes, but you kind of got to listen to them a few times and think like, ooh, what does this actually mean? Like I said, they're not just live, laugh, love. There's a little bit more depth. So the very first one here, like I said, this is life-changing in my opinion. But it is the quote of, your life is a direct reflection of the expectations of your peer group. I think this is literally so insanely spot on. I'm going to say it again. Your life is a direct reflection of the expectations of your peer group. And if you don't initially get that, or you think, what the fuck is she talking about? If we really break that down, if we think about peer group, meaning really just people that you spend a lot of time with. If you have a full-time job and you work with the same people every day, they're very much your peer group. If you've got a good group of friends that you catch up with all the time, if you spend a lot of time with your immediate family or extended family, if you've got housemates, anything like that, just think about the people that are very consistently a part of your life. This is your peer group. If we think about the quote, your life is a direct reflection of the expectations of your peer group. That word expectations is the real juice in this, because what this really means is, if we think about our peer group, and this is going to look different for everybody, and this is why I love quotes like this, because it's just thought-provoking, and then you just kind of tap into it and think like, oh, what does this actually look like for me? How does this apply to me? If you've got a peer group, I'm going to use an example. When I was driving here, I actually thought of a really random example, but it's perfect. I feel like people wouldn't know this, but in a past life, I actually worked at Lorna Jane, which has been, I think it was probably about 10 or 12 years ago, but it was when I was PTing. I actually got injured, couldn't teach a lot of group fitness like I used to. Long story short, side hustle, Lorna Jane. And it was great. It was fun while it lasted. But the example I want to use here is when I worked there, and I reckon so many people who work in retail or offices or similar are going to be able to relate to this. When I worked there, we worked in quite a big store. There was usually like 4 to 6 of us working at one time, and we had quite a big cash register up the front, and it was always full of snacks. And it was just like a known thing that we would always have snacks. It was always someone's turn to go and buy new snacks. What are we eating today? And it was very lighthearted. But when we bring it back to this quote, your life is a direct reflection of the expectation of your peer group. If you think about that time for me, those girls were very much my peer group. And like I said, it was awesome. I loved it. But they were the people I was spending a lot of time with. And the expectation in that group was that we're snackers. We snack all day, every day. And as a bit of a side note, obviously you guys know I'm all for flexible dieting. I'm all about the snacks. Like, that's not my point here. But my point here is, if we think about a person who is working towards a goal with nutrition and training or whatever it might be, snacking might really interfere with that goal. It just might not align. It's going to be a bit of a cock block on the goal. If you then have a peer group where the expectation is we always snack, your life is going to be a direct reflection of that. And you're going to find yourself in a really conflicting position where my goals over here require one thing, but the expectation of my peer group is that we do X, Y, Z, and it really disconnects with those goals. Another really good example on a similar note is if you've got a really good group of friends and the expectation is we get together every weekend and we drink wine and we eat cheese. And again, I'm all for the wine and cheese. That's not the combo I want to have today. But if that is actually just the expectation and that's just the standard and it's just expected, it's like, well, when we get together, that's just what we do. I reckon so many people can relate to this, where you're pursuing a goal, if we think about most people listening probably have pursued a nutrition or body composition goal at some time, and you've probably found yourself in a really conflicting position where you think, okay, I do have this goal, but then I also have this constant thing over here that's really mismatched to the goal. And if we really pull that apart in these examples, it's because of the expectation of the peer group. We've put ourselves in a group, and this is not to shame friends or family or colleagues or whatever, but it's to bring awareness and think, yeah, fuck, is this where my actual struggle really is? That I have found myself in a peer group where there is just an expectation and I just kind of fall to it. If we really think about it, it's so common. And those are just examples with nutrition and training. And like I said, I always try and bring this stuff back to nutrition and training because I know that's what everyone here is interested in. But even if we think about that quote, I'm going to say it a million times so it really lands, but my life is a direct reflection of the expectation of my peer group. Another really good example that I think a lot of people can relate to with this is, do you have a peer group? Again, maybe friends, family, maybe it's your parents, maybe it's your partner, anyone that you interact with a lot. And the expectation is that we get together and we bitch about money and we bitch about the cost of living and we run this story that everything's expensive, no one can afford anything, no one can get ahead. I don't want to bring up the cost of living chat. That's not my area. That's not where I want to go. But again, if we think about that, if you constantly get together with these people and have this same convo, whether it's cost of living, whether it's dieting is hard, whether it's I don't feel like getting up and going to the gym, if we're constantly entertaining the same conversations, but then when we walk away and we look at our own personal goals, we need to actually look and say, is there a big disconnect here? Am I constantly dabbling in this energy and this frequency and having a conversation that really doesn't support my goals? If you think about someone, I know we get a lot of online coaches that listen. If you think about online coaches, you're running a business and you're selling a service. If you're having a conversation every day with people that's like, everything's so expensive, no one's buying anything, no one can get ahead, how are you going to feel when you're running a business and you're trying to sell a service and you're going to think to yourself, fuck, no one's buying? Because that has become the norm for you. If you get together with that peer group all the time, the expectation is we just bitch about money. That's just what we do. And usually these things, whether it's the money chat, whether it's the dieting chat, whether it's I don't want to get up and go to gym, whatever it is, usually it's done in quite a lighthearted way. Oh, we just get together, we get on the wines and we just fucking bitch about work. Right? And it's funny and it's this and it's that and we all have a laugh. But if you are doing that over and over and over, bring it back to the quote, your life is a direct reflection of the expectation of this group. If the group is constantly doing this thing, that is literally becoming your life. If you are constantly getting with these people and just the convo is dieting is hard, dieting is hard, dieting is hard, dieting is hard, how well do you really think you're going to be able to diet? You've literally just had it drummed into you on repeat that this thing is true. And I mean, it's probably a whole nother combo if we pull apart like psyche and conditioning and all of these things, but we are literally conditioning ourselves to believe something if we're entertaining that conversation and that habit and that expectation, whatever it is, over and over and over. And if we think about the amount of time that we spend with our peer group, we are doing these things over and over and over. So the reason I love this quote and the thing that I really think people need to look at here is, have I just normalized a conversation, a habit, an expectation, or anything along those lines that actually really is either quite negative and or really disconnected to my goal? Again, if we think about a person who is pursuing a nutrition or body composition goal and the constant chat in the group is that fucking dieting's hard, this is shit, I can't lose weight, etc. How well do you really think you're going to be able to pursue that goal? Same thing again with money. If you're someone who either runs a business or even just is doing your own thing and personally trying to get ahead with your finances, if you're constantly in these conversations of like, money's so fucking hard, everything's expensive, rah, 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 again, how are you actually going to energetically feel working towards that goal? And how well are you really going to be able to do it? If we think about the real deep psyche stuff, if you have literally had dieting is hard, losing weight is impossible drummed into you you're going to have such a strong underlying belief, maybe subconsciously you won't even realize, that you think you actually are never going to be able to diet well and lose weight. If that's just all you've ever heard, that's what you're constantly hearing, that's going to be laying quite deep in your mind. Anytime you start to pursue a diet, there's a very big subconscious thing there that's like, but this is really fucking hard and impossible. Like, we just need to have a look. What is, like I was saying, I think I went off topic there, but the thing to really look at here is, what have we normalized as a habit, a standard, a conversation, an expectation, anything like that, that we're just constantly partaking in that's actually really not serving us. So that was my first quote. Feel like I went hard on that one. I said this is going to be a short episode and that's one down. The second quote that I'm loving at the moment, and this, I feel like if you're an OG listener and you've heard a lot of the other mindset chats that I've done, this is just kind of them reworded. But I think that's cool because it's just very aligned with me and my mindset and my values and the way I think and everything. But this quote I absolutely love, and it is, navigate something challenging without the situation becoming the scapegoat for why you can't. I'm going to say it again because it's a mouthful. Navigate something challenging without the situation becoming the scapegoat for why you can't. And really what this means, if we break this down, if we are navigating something challenging, don't let that challenge become the reason that you, quote, can't. If we think about pursuing any goal in life, and again, we'll bring it to nutrition and training because that's what we're here for. If we are pursuing a really intense calorie deficit or a really intense training program, or we've really changed up our routines, anything at all to work towards our goal, there's going to be times where it's challenging. Be okay with that. And again, OG listeners will know one of my favorite quotes for a long time was literally just asking myself the question, can it be okay? Can it be okay that something's hard? Can it be okay that something's challenging? Can it be okay that I had a really fucking shit day today? Can it be okay that I'm hungry when I'm on a diet? Can it be okay that I'm tired when I'm at the gym? I love that question. I think anytime a challenge is presented, literally just asking yourself, can it be okay, is life-changing. But again, if we bring it back to this one, navigate something challenging without the situation becoming the scapegoat for why you can't. We are going to have challenging things presented when we're working towards a goal. That's just actually part of it. If every time a challenge is presented, we let it become the scapegoat for I can't pursue my goal because dieting was really hard. I can't pursue my goal because I can't get up early for gym. Can it be okay that it's hard to get up early to go to gym, but we can still do it? And that's really what this quote is. Navigate something challenging without the situation becoming the scapegoat. The scapegoat is just like, oh, okay, challenge is presented. Here's my reason to tap out. I'm out of here. And again, do what you want. Like if you want to tap out, go for it. But really, if we think about, like I said, pursuing a goal, whether it is nutrition, training, body comp, business, relationship, life, money, anything at all, if we want to pursue something awesome, there's going to be challenges. I've said this on the podcast before. I think I used maybe Usain Bolt or someone as the example. Like, do we think Usain Bolt has just had a perfect fucking training session every day for his running career? Absolutely not. If you follow, like Shaq and I are super into NRL, how many NRL players have awesome careers with big ups and downs with injuries? Anytime we want to pursue something big, grand, and awesome, assume that there's going to be big, grand, awesome challenges along the way. It actually just goes hand in hand. The bigger the shit you want to achieve, the harder it's going to be and the bigger the challenges are going to be. And that's a little bit off topic to the actual quote. But if, again, we bring it back to nutrition and training, if you're pursuing something that you haven't done before, you're trying to reach a new goal, maybe you haven't done it for a long time, whatever it might be, you're really working towards something big and awesome. Let it be okay that there's big and awesome challenges as well, and don't let them become the scapegoat for why you can't. And even if I think about, I say this often to the girls in the fat loss phase, when we run the fat loss phase, we look at 10 weeks, 7 days a week, 70 days. We're not going to have a perfect 70 days. We're actually just not. If you think about that, very rarely in life do we go 0 for 70 and just have 70 perfect days of nutrition training, nothing got in my way, happy days, I feel awesome, like time management was perfect, nothing popped up, routine was perfect, energy was great, hunger was great, food was great, training was great. Like there's going to be something that comes undone at some point. And it's going to be challenging. Again, if you think about a 70-day window of pursuing a goal, let's assume some of those days are going to be a bit challenging, a little bit hard. Can it be okay that some of them are challenging and hard? And can we not make them just instantly become the scapegoat for why they can't? If you are pursuing a goal, you're ticking along, things are good, you hit a hurdle, you hit a challenge, do you just instantly go, oh, well, fuck, now I can't. Like this is the reason that I can't. Because, and we've used so many examples before where people, get held back at work, or I do night shift, or my partner doesn't eat the same foods as me, whatever it is. And we've spoken about so many ways to navigate those actual things before. But again, if you just find yourself in that position where things are ticking along and then something does come up, don't let it instantly become the scapegoat. Don't just write yourself off and go, oh, well, fuck that, like this got hard, I'm out. Because again, we just think about the level of the thing that you want to achieve. We can't just assume and it's not even assume, it's more like entitled. Do we think we're entitled to just a perfect fucking smooth sailing the whole way there? Never hit a hurdle, never hit a challenge, achieve my awesome goal, never have a bad day again in my life. Like it's actually just not going to happen. So that one, I'm going to repeat it one more time. Navigate something challenging without the situation becoming the scapegoat for why you can't. It's an absolute banger. And the last thing I had on my list here, if you follow me on Insta and you watch my stories, you've probably seen this one before. This is literally the big, massive heading on my Notion board. So again, I've posted this on my stories before. It is just one big capital letter quote of go after your goals like your life depends on it, because it does. I feel like that doesn't even need to be explained, but we know I'm going to go for ages on that one. But literally go after your goals like your life depends on it, because it does. This to me is literally everything, because we've heard on the podcast so many times that I'm not a fan at all of the motivation chat. I'm not a fan of the discipline over motivation chat. I'm very much a fan of thinking, what actually is it that I want my life to be? I'm going to go after those things like my life depends on it, because it does. If we think about my own goals, I did the episode last week where I spoke about my body composition and muscle gain and all of those sort of goals, and then also just the things I'm working on in business. If I think about those goals, literally I am going after them like my life depends on it, because it does. That shit is my life. If I think about my health, my body composition, the food that I eat every day, the training that I do, and then the business that I run, that is 80 to 90% of my life. The only other things in there are like Shaq and Nutella. Like that is so heavily my life. So if I think about those goals, my life actually depends on going after them, because if I don't, I'm actually just going to have a different life. And this is what I think a lot of people need to tap into. And I think there's so many directions we can take this conversation. I felt like doing a whole episode about motivation one time, but I feel like I'm just going to get all riled up and it'll just be too much. I don't know. I'll see. But really, there is so many directions we can take this convo, because I think so many people, I said this on an episode really early this year. I think so many people have a visual in their mind of where they eventually want to be, whether it's with their weight and body composition, whether it's with their money, whether it's with their career, anything at all. I think we can all kind of be like, oh my God, I'd love to get to this position. And we've sort of got this pedestal in your mind of like, one day I'll get there. If we think about going after your goals like your life depends on it, it actually does, because if that is the goal and the thing that you eventually want to get to, you need to be going after that like your life depends on it. Otherwise, your life is going to look very different. If you never get there, but that's where you want to get to, your life is going to actually look very different to how you want it to look. And I think so many people need to really sit with that and strip it back and think, yeah, fuck, like I do have these quote goals. And I mean, I'll come back to that. But I think a lot of people do think like, yeah, I have these goals, but I don't feel like it today. And no, I'm looking for motivation and I'm not sure what to do, and I might do that next week. Even if I think about things like the fat loss phase, this is such a random example, but the amount of people that DM me and go, I'm thinking about joining Eat Like Ruby. And it's like, that's awesome. Everyone's going to have their process. I actually never really go back and forth with these people, because if we think about that, and again, no disrespect, like everyone's going to have their process. If you need to manage time or finances or anything until you join, that's absolutely perfect. But if we think about, I reckon so many people can relate to this with either Eat Like Ruby or joining a gym, joining a challenge, joining anything at all. It's always that like, oh, I'm thinking of joining, I might do the next one. If we think about it again, you've got this goal and you've got this thing you want to work towards, go after it like your life depends on it, because it does. Whether that's Eat Like Ruby, whether it's joining a gym, joining a challenge, I don't care if you join the most restrictive 8-week challenge in the world, but actually step up and do the thing. I actually do care. I don't want people to do that, but actually step up and go for the thing that you want to go for, because I think that is just so common to dabble in this energy of, oh, like one day, next week, I'll get there, etc. But like literally every day, every moment that goes past between now and then is your life. And you've got this goal in your mind of like, well, eventually I'll get here and I'll feel good. But it's like, what do you feel like now and in between getting there? And if you're not actively working towards getting there and just fucking going for it, this is your life and it's not the reality that you actually want it to be. So that one is so simple, and I feel like I could talk about it all day, but it is just go after your goals like your life depends on it. It does. And the last thing I'll say there, what I said I'll come back to, and I've touched on this so many times, it is that sort of motivation chat where people, in my opinion, if you're asking the question of how can I be motivated to work towards my goal, I think you need a different goal. And I don't say that in a rude way. I'm saying that because I truly believe that to be true. I think if we are asking someone else, how can I be excited and want to work towards this thing? If we think about the term motivation, you're looking for excitement and drive is just desire. Desire is want. So really you're asking, how can I want to work towards this thing? When we look at that, the underlying thing there is I don't want to. If you're asking, how can I want to work towards this? To me, that says, well, right now you don't want to. And that's where I think you got to strip it back and think, what is my actual goal? And I think people just sort of set goals of like, oh, my goal is to lose weight. My goal is to go to the gym. I think we got to strip that shit way back and get really clear on, why do I want to lose weight? Why do I want to go to the gym? Is it to be fit and healthy for my family? Is it to have more confidence? Is it to have more strength? I think when people go through gym, if I think about all of my girls in Eat Like Ruby that get after it in the gym, there's never a question of motivation because they want to get stronger physically, mentally, emotionally. So even this is a really cool thing to clock. If you're in Eat Like Ruby, or even if you're not, but you're killing it with your gym training, you probably aren't really thinking about motivation ever, because you're like, no, I just want to get after this thing. I want to get better. I want to get stronger. I'll even shout out one of my girls, Katie. She's she does training in Eat Like Ruby. She's done the fat loss phase and she does training, constantly sharing her PBs on Insta. And I messaged her the other day and I'm like, you fucking killing it. And she literally just wrote back, I'm loving it. I just want to get better every day. That is like the best fucking thing. Like, I love that so much. But really, if we look at that, there's never really a question of motivation, discipline, all of these things, because she actually just wants to do the thing. Same with me. If I think about my muscle gain goals that I spoke about last week, I'm never going to anyone saying, how can I be motivated to pursue muscle gain? If I was doing that, I'd be like, Robe, stop doing it. You don't want to do it. It doesn't actually make sense. So I just think it is so important to really get clear on what the fuck you actually want. Really, just have like no rules, no limitations, no nothing, and just be like, what is the actual fucking thing that I want with my life? Whether it's gym, body comp, nutrition, whether it's business, whether it's a relationship, whether it's like sell all my shit, travel the world, I don't care. But I think you just have to get so clear, because when I think about all of the people that I know that are killing it and just working towards the shit that they want, no one's ever asking about motivation. Even if I use Georgia, I'm literally sitting in a podcast studio with Georgia, podcast studio owner, and she just opened this studio a month ago or however long it's been. I would bet that she was never like, asking people, how can I get motivated to open a podcast studio? She's like, I just want to fucking open a podcast studio. So I'm doing it. So, and again, if I was thinking about opening a podcast studio, I'd probably be like, oh, someone motivate me, whatever. The underlying thing there is like, Rubes, you don't want to do this. This is not your goal. This is not your drive. This is not your passion. So I just think we have to really get clear on that. I think if you're asking for tips on motivation, we all know how I feel about the tips, but if you're asking for tips on motivation, really remind yourself and get clear with yourself, I'm actually asking someone else how I can want to do this thing. Underlying thing there, I don't really want to do it. So really think about that and just give yourself permission to say, what do I want to do? Because I think a lot of people just think, I have to get up and I have to do this and I have to go to gym. We don't have to do anything. Like, we need to get so clear on what that is, because that shit will change your life. And then you will go after your goals like your life depends on it, because it does. And I'm going to wrap it up there, because otherwise I'm going to get too fired up and I'm going to keep going. But I think that was a good juicy mindset episode. And I think it's just important to really have a think about those things. And you might have a think and think, yeah, cool, I'm killing it with that. Or like I always say, practice discernment. You might be like, no, that doesn't apply to me, whatever, go off, Rubes, have fun. But I think they're just cool things to really tap into and just bring the awareness. I think awareness is the number one thing, to hear these kind of things and think, like, A, am I good with that? B, does that not apply to me? Or C, shit, did that just hit me in the feels? And if it did, I would love to know. Like always, guys, share the podcast, tag it on your stories, etc. It honestly helps so much, guys. If you think about it, we come here every week. Well, I come here every week, record the podcast. You put a lot of time and energy and everything into it. I absolutely want to just keep doing it for you guys, because I know how helpful they are. So please, in return, like it, rate it, review it, share it, all of the things. It helps so much. And I will be back next week with another solo ep.